What's up, everyone? We're back with another episode of the Jellison podcast, and they have a very special guest, Purdue legend Lewis Jackson. Lou, how you doing?
Doing good. How you doing?
I'm doing great, man. Thank you so much for coming on. Coming off the heels of a huge Purdue win over number 15 Ohio State on Tuesday. What were your thoughts on that game?
Man, I felt like a player. Like it's not too many games. Like when you're watching it now, like you kind of can take yourself out of the moment. But watching that game, the way the guys battled back, and then obviously the big shot Ivy hit, like I felt like I was part of the locker room, and I could just. It was an exciting time. Super happy.
Mm-hmm. And then, like you mentioned, Ivy coming off the bench in the second half, having a huge half, his biggest game as a Purdue Boilermaker, obviously. And then I don't know if you saw the clip, but after the game, he was super emotional. Is it common for guys to kind of go through things mentally or kind of be too hard on themselves on the court and not be able to kind of like express that?
Oh, definitely. I think especially as freshmen, those guys. You go from being the man on your high school team, and everybody depends on you, and then you get into the college level. You want to prove yourself. You want to show you're capable of it, and then if you're having a slump, you're better than that. Then you want to get over a hump. And I even seen with Jaden Ivey the last game. I think that was Penn State. I seen fans retweeting it on Twitter that after the game he wouldn't got shots up, and I know that feeling. It's like you just like, man, I just want to get over this hump. So for him to make that shot, I know it's just a big sigh of relief, and now it's just like that light clicks on because he's seen the shot drop, and it's just more confidence, and it's just a stress reliever.
Mm-hmm. So you kind of talked about that light clicking on. Do you think he'll have an even bigger role going forward?
I think he will. I think obviously we know our team is young, especially at the guard position. So everybody's trying to figure themselves out and what they do best and how to assert themselves. And I think with him knocking that shot down, it is going to give him a little bit more confidence. He's going to be more aggressive, and it's kind of going to also give him a little bit more rope with coach because now he's proven some things and he's going to continue to stay aggressive because we've seen him make those shots in a big game situation.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. So I mean, this freshman class is pretty loaded. Obviously, you have the two redshirt guys that are in that class now. How do you think this class kind of stacks up with some of the past Boilermaker classes? Obviously, Baby Boilers who you played with, and then you also got Vince Edwards, Haas, Matthias, and PJ. That class, that was just in recent memory. Obviously, I'm pretty young, so I don't remember like the older guys.
Yeah, I think they have the potential to to be just as good as the Baby Boilers and the other group that you mentioned. Also, I think we got a little bit of disappointment in the recruitment class when Rapheal, Ronnie Johnson, was AJ Hammonds and Jay Simpson. That was a big recruiting class. Obviously, Jay had some health issues, but I put those guys right up there at that line of group, and I think they can win us a Big Ten title, one or two at least. In their 4 years being there.
Mm-hmm. And then, what have your impressions been? I know you watched the team a lot. What have your impressions been at the beginning of the season compared to like how things are progressing now?
It's rough. It's rough at the beginning of the year. Just watching, obviously, you see how young our guards are, and just being in the Big Ten and just going through that type of level, you kind of assume that some of our guards are going to struggle. Then, unfortunately, you get a guy like Eric Hunter gets hurt, um, Morton gets sick, like so that adversity early. You hate to see it, but the thing that I like the most is those guys are reminding me of other Purdue teams through the year to just keep getting better. Just keep getting better, and they're peaking at the right time. So watching them now just lets me know that they're believing in coach and every day what they're doing in practice. They're really going at it hard, and it's showing through their development now, and they'll be able to continue to keep that not only this year but for the years to come.
Mm-hmm. What types of teams are you reminded of this year's squad?
With this year's squad, they're kind of unique, but I think they kind of are similar to the Rapheal Davis freshman group because you have Trey that's a dominant force and he's kind of being an initiative, and Eric has been there. So some guys have won, but it's such a new nucleus that a lot of guys are having to learn on the fly and play to where other groups, when I came in, the Baby Boy was already kind of established. Then when Ray left, you already had Dakota getting a little bit of leadership. So with this group, they're kind of having to figure it out their own, especially in the guard ranks, and it's helping them grow a little bit more.
Mm-hmm. Totally. Um, so obviously we're in the midst of a 4-game winning stretch. Two huge wins or 3 huge wins actually over Michigan State, IU, and now Ohio State. Pardon
Yeah.
me. So do you think this team has the tools to contend for a Big Ten championship, be in that top 3 range?
Absolutely. I think the one thing people always got to know, the Big Ten is always going to be tough. We jokingly said because we played in it, like how hard the Big Ten is. Obviously, when you protect home court, which is a different type of year because of the COVID, but you always have to protect home court, and anybody can get beat on the road. So just about execution and knowing the type of coaching staff we have with Coach Painter, Michael Shrewsbury, Lutz, those guys, Coach Brantley. They're going to stress defense, and as long as we continue to play well on defense and we let our defense give us our momentum offensively, they'll have a shot at it because Trey's a monster downside and those guards are starting to get confidence. So I think if they continue to do what they do, we have a possibility to win the Big Ten.
Hmm. And then obviously you said you kind of look back on former teams that Painter has had. Do you watch games from a different perspective, being that you've kind of been through the program and you know what Paint expects of the guys?
Absolutely. Sometimes I joke like I'm me and Ray now we get on Twitter a little bit more and you see it like like I know when Coach Perrin is he's preaching 3 stops in a row. I know fans always wonder when he's saying move the ball, move the ball. Like I know what he's expecting. I watch the breakdowns a little bit differently, so I definitely do see it from his lens now as a player and the coach's lens. I see what he's expecting, and I know when we do execute the right way when things are working for us.
All right, so I mean, you mentioned it, but when he says move like 12 times in a row, super loud, everyone in the whole damn arena can hear it. Uh, what does he want the guys to do? Is it like a specific um, philosophy he wants the guys to do, or is it just kind of get open or whatever?
Well, in the motion offense, it's a lot more freedom than a lot of people really understand. So when you're continuously moving the ball, it's making the defenders necessarily. Sometimes people call it eye wash, but the ball could be on the right wing. But if I got a guard in the big on my left wing, setting it down screen, it's keeping those defenders occupied. So when you had, well, now let's just use this team. You got a guy like Ivy. Now he maybe be able to break a guy off and get to the rim and get a layup. But the whole time that action on the other side when he's yelling move is keeping those defenders occupied and not allowing them to just stay and help side defense. And it just makes the defensive team keep working, and we find breakdowns within that.
So when you were playing um, with, obviously you played with each one more, JaJuan and Robbie, like we mentioned. Um, did you guys ever get kind of chirped out by Painter if he was saying move or something else and you guys didn't do it?
Oh yeah, I mean sometimes you'll be hearing him say move, and we'll be tired. We've been playing defense. I know a couple times myself, I would just go in the corner. I would just go set a screen for each one, let them curl off of me, and I'll go back in the corner. But we understood how much it meant when we did move the ball, and he would always point that out in film when we did move the ball. So we really understood how important it was to get guys to move, and it made shots easier for us.
Hmm. And moving forward, obviously Purdue has a big game against Michigan on Friday. I'll be there covering the game. How do you think we match up with them?
I think we match up well. Obviously, with Travion, just that dominant presence inside is always going to be a key factor. We have to, I think offensively, we have to trust our inside out game and work our way from the inside to the out. And we make shots. And I think sometimes as fans, I know I get this way. You hate to see guys miss shots. You're
Mhm.
like, man, just make a shot. But as long as we always continue to hang our hat on defense, which we always do, I think we can compete with anybody. And that's the thing. Guys just have to always rely on that defensive end. Even when shots aren't falling, as long as we defend, we'll be in the game because we got guys that's shown from Eric Hunter to Travion, Ivy, Newman. The list goes on. Those guys can score the ball. So as long as we defend and we just trust our offense and run it the right way, we got a good shot to win.
Now, obviously, like I mentioned twice before, we're in the midst of a 4 game winning stretch. How much does Paint like kind of change up the game plan from game to game? So obviously the same squad and the same kind of philosophy won't be used for Ohio State compared to Michigan. So how does Paint kind of change that up, and how much
Uh,
does it change?
Well, I mean, we're always gonna lean our hats on defense. That's gonna be first and foremost. But our coaching staff, I think sometimes people don't understand the hours they put in. Like when they really mean a scouting report, like they wholeheartedly they're gonna go do their best. You're gonna know what the best players like to do. We're gonna know what they like to execute and run. So as long as those guys really dive into the scouting report each game, we have a good chance to win. Or at least we won't be caught off guard with what they're running. coach spends hours and hours on film, so the guys should be prepared when through walkthrough and everything to know what sets that Michigan likes to run and how we need to get them out of their comfort zone.
Mm-hmm. Now you mentioned defense quite a few times already. Coming out of high school, did you kind of hang your hat on defense at all? I know Ray. I talked to Ray, and he ended up being an All Big Ten Defensive Player of the Year, and he said that he couldn't guard a chair in high school because all he could do was score. Did you did you kind of have to change your mentality at all? I don't know. Like,
A little bit. My thing was where I was from, we were always like, I didn't want to be the guy to get picked on defensively. I never wanted to be the guy after the game and we go to school the next day and the guy like, hey man, that dude just dropped 20 on you, 30 on you. So then when I got to Purdue, Coach Painter used to always tell me, you played hard, but you haven't played this hard yet. And I used to look at him like, what are you talking about? Then I learned what jamming the ball was. And we were always on TV. So in my mind, I'm not going to be the guy on TV and I got to hear from my boys back home and the fans like, hey, this guy can't guard. He's a weak link. So I did start taking pride in it. And then you start seeing guys struggle and hate to see you guard them defensively. It's something that grows on you at Purdue. Coach Painter has a way to make you take pride in your defense.
I was watching that post game chat that you and Ray had the other day. I mean, we'll talk about this a little later, but I mean, keep up the good work. Those things are awesome. I watch them. I'm gonna keep watching them after every game. Um, but
Appreciate that.
but you're talking about guarding like guys like William Buford. They're like 6'6", and obviously you're an undersized guard. How tough was that, and how much did Paint and the rest of the coaching staff expect of you?
It was extremely hard for me. I had never, as we call it, jammed the basketball. And the point guards always jammed the basketball. I never did that. And to know every game that I had to physically jam the basketball and guard guys that were offensively like greats, this great guys that can punish you, it wore them down. So it started to make me really appreciate and see the benefit of my advantage to picking a guy up 94 feet. And then through practice, you got guys like Robbie, JaJuan, John Hart, Bobby Riddell, Mark. I can go down the line. We got great shooters. So you learn through practice how to trail screens and really we battle every day. So when you got to guard guys like William Buford and those guys, you really understand what it means to stick to them on your hip. And I just always had to use my size and be a pest just so those guys can never get comfortable with their height against me.
And talk about jamming the basketball for people that don't know what that is and how much that kind of takes out of you as a player on the court.
Oh my God, like offensively, like it's you have to take pride in jamming the basketball. Like you literally, I remember Taylor Battle said it one time to me. He turned around, I think we were up by like 15 at Penn State, and he said, yo, are you still here? And like to physically just jam the basketball. It was times my freshman year and even my sophomore year was like, I had no legs offensively because I'm 94 feet. I'm full court pressing every day, and it's a mental game. But once you understand how much of an advantage it gives your team, you start to thrive off on it. Like I knew it would never show up in the scoreboard, but my teammates they appreciated it, and I seen how much it helped our team. But you have to be mentally tough and have to be willing to be. You have to be in great condition because now you have to get back on offense, but your legs are going to be tired. A lot of days in that cold tub.
For sure. So Payne kind of expects a lot of his guards, especially defensively. Do you think that's why he's kind of lean more on the big men? I mean, we've had tons of great big men, even in the past what 10 years. Hammonds,
Yeah.
Haas, Harms, Big E. Now we got Trey and Edie. So do you think that's kind of the method to his madness there?
I think it's a combination of both. We always joke with our group, the baby boiler group. We always said, Coach, if you could have found us 1 7-footer and we could have put JaJuan, at his natural position, it probably would have helped us better. But I think he's found the method that a lot of the new age coaches have went away and they want to go small ball and just shoot the three. But coach has been great, like you said, the last 10 years getting bigs in. And it's really just helped our offense better because he's always going to have great shooters. And now you look at a guy like Travion, he's an excellent passer out the double team. So it really benefits our offense that much more by just having somebody in there you can securely throw the ball into and get an easy two when shots are not falling for us.
Mm-hmm. I mean, before we got on here, I was looking up like those seasons when you were playing for Purdue and the Baby Boilers, and I looked at JaJuan's senior season. He was playing like 36 minutes a game because
Yeah.
there's really no one behind him.
Yeah, it was a weird moment. I mean, we had some okay bigs, but it seemed like after JaJuan left, coach was able just to I don't know what he did in recruiting, but he found those guys and he got them in there. But when JaJuan was really there, he was our 6'10" big man. And we look back at it, he wasn't physically, I don't think he's been bigger than AJ, body size, Travion, Biggie. I don't think he's been bigger than any of those guys, but it's some formula that coach found. But it worked for us because JaJuan was able to be skillful and come out and shoot the three ball well. So it worked out for us because we were able to pick and pop with him and use his athleticism at an advantage.
Hmm. And we kind of got away from like going on the road, and obviously we have those two big on the road wins. So talk about some of the battles that you guys had. Obviously, you've had a ton of people come into Mackey, and you guys swat them all out of there. So what about going on the road and some of your favorite memories from those battles?
Oh man, the road is where that's when you find out how mentally tough you are. You know what I mean? I think the Big Ten fans are some of the most impressive fans. Some of the things you're gonna hear on the road, but you go into the Breslin Center in Michigan State, that's always a dogfight. And my 4 years there, every time we played Michigan State, it was in a contention for a Big Ten title. So the game meant that much more with fans. Ohio State has always been hard to win at. It's crazy because even my freshman year, they were okay, but it was always hard to win Ohio State, the Cole Center in Wisconsin with Bo Ryan and those guys. The Big Ten is tough. I'm trying to think. I might be forgetting a place. Obviously IU. You hate you. You know, I use IU, but literally IU is the only arena I remember vividly to this day. I threw a pass to Etwan on the left wing, and you literally see a fan like right behind his ear yelling at him, and it's just like it's a different atmosphere down in Bloomington. You know, so those are probably the four toughest places. Illinois is good too, but my years there, you definitely Ohio State, Wisconsin, Michigan State, and I use IU. Those are some tough venues to play in.
Hmm. I had the pleasure of going down there a couple years ago. I was super impressed. I'd never been to Assembly Hall before. I thought it was super cool. Obviously, it doesn't touch Mackey, but um, how was IU when you guys played them? I can't. I want to think that they were like those years they were going like 8-24 and something like that.
Yeah, yeah. We actually my freshman year, I can't remember. That was Tom Cream's first year, so he didn't get a lot of guys in. So that first year they struggled. Second year they struggled. My junior year they were starting to become better. Victor Oladipo was a freshman. Will Sheehy, some of those guys that kind of helped Christian Wofford that turned the program around. They were there. And then my senior year, Cody Zeller got there, and that was the year they kind of turned everything around. And I used the only game before practice. We have to practice with the speaker. Coach brings in a speaker, so literally you hear the fans like we're going through scouting report, we're going through practice, and he keeps the fan noise on because in Mackey is going to get crazy, and IU it gets crazy. So that was always a fun thing to do, even through scouting report.
Did you have any memories or stories that stick out from playing against IU?
Probably the best one for me is my junior year, which we're at IU, and they're kind of making a comeback, and me and Austin Rivers tie up. We get in the physical altercation. That's probably one of the big moments. And then we went on like a 6-0, 7-0 run and put the game away. That's probably my most memorable moment at IU. And that's when I really felt like I was part of it. Because at first, being an Illinois guy, I was like, okay, I get it. And I knew some guys. But then by the time my junior year came, I was all the way in. Like I thought I was from Indiana at that point.
Hmm. I think they put that on the like the pregame hype video. I'm pretty sure that was on there at least one year. I'm not really sure now. I've only been to one game. But seeing the big win against IU a couple weeks ago, do you have more appreciation for that rivalry? Just given that you've been there before, done it.
Always, I've had guys just through professionally playing through my career, other people just talking to, and people always ask me like, "Is it really that big of a rivalry?" And I was like, I think if it's not Duke, North Carolina, I don't think it's a better rivalry in college basketball at all. And it's hard to explain until you're a part of it. But even the fans just it like it's no in between. Either you root for Purdue or you root for IU. I don't care how bad the season's going. You can't lose that game. Like I remember we lost to IU my senior year. That was my first time losing to IU my senior year. And literally the next day in practice, we ran. We just ran the whole practice. And it was like we could have lost to any other team in the Big Ten. We never would have had to run like that. But you don't lose to IU. And it's a great rivalry to be a part of.
You talked about the fans. IU fans on Twitter are just they're awful. I mean, I don't know how much you keep up with them, but like, I mean, they're mad right now because of Archie, and I don't really blame them. But so when you go into those like crazy environments, maybe an IU or a Michigan State at Breslin Center, um, do those hostile environments make the game more fun?
Definitely. I mean, some guys, honestly, I've seen some guys, they shy away from the moment, but those are the times because the fans are excited, and it's like it's no better feeling than performing and kind of shutting the fans up, or at least even if you don't shut the fans up, in their mind, they respect you, and then you leave out of there, and it's like we both know, like, hey, that kid can play, or okay, I respect your game, and that you always want to leave an arena like that, especially a hostile arena.
Did things ever get personal? I remember, unfortunately, they talked about Haas's sister with a medical condition. Did things ever get like that personal that you could hear?
Um, not really. I think they might have yelled. I think something happened with DJ Bird's sister. I think IU, they put her all the way up at the top because they only give you a certain amount of fans. They let you sit with the family, and I think a couple people were kind of picking with her. And I do remember a fan telling us he was at the top of the IU in the IU section, and like him and the guy almost got to fist fighting, and they almost pushed him down the stairs, and he was just like, I'm a loyal Boiler fan. I was gonna ride with you guys," and I'm just like, hey, I appreciate you more than like you're willing to fight in the middle of a game just because the intensity is that much. So those are probably the two. Yeah, that's the most hostile I've heard it get.
hmm And I want to talk about you playing with the Baby Boilers. Obviously, you came in a year after them, but those that stretch of like 4 or 5 years, you can put them up against any 4 or 5 years in Purdue history. So, what was that kind of like coming in and seeing the culture that they set forth, and then continuing that?
Man, it was phenomenal. I told Ray the other day, and I didn't realize it. Just the moment I walked in, we were already ranked.
hmm
And the expectation, I remember the first time we broke down in the huddle, it was Big Ten championship. It was never let's just finish in the upper of the Big Ten. It was always the expectation we should win the Big Ten championship. And then my sophomore year, the Final Four was in Indy, so the expectation we were all coming back and we were going to win the national championship. And then I appreciate it so much more because it made us work harder because we always strive to win a national championship. It was never, hey guys, we can just be okay. It was always a higher goal, and it made us that much better. And it just made the competition so much better for us all through the year.
hmm And how did Paint kind of get all those guys to buy in? You have you, Etwan, Robbie, JaJuan. Um, was there any kind of like I don't want to say beef, but a little tension maybe in a game. Each one says he wants the ball a little more. So how did Paint kind of get those guys to all buy in and play cohesively?
Thankfully, I can honestly say those guys' personalities, nobody was a prima donna. It was everybody was team first. It was all about winning first. And if each one had a monster night, Rob Hummel was not going to be mad. JaJuan Johnson wasn't going to be mad. And it made things so much better for even the role players. Like if I had a great night, nobody was sitting there like, oh, I didn't get my numbers tonight. Everybody, I think it's the credit that Pink does the way he recruits guys. He wants winners first, and everybody played a different position. I think that's what made it important too. Nobody was fighting for minutes, and everybody just trusted each other and wanted the best for each other. And we understood winning would bring everything else to the table for us. So it made it that much easier.
And you just mentioned it. My next question: winning solves everything. That's kind of a universal term, but do you think if maybe you guys had some struggles that things could have been different?
It's always possible. I losing sometimes. Sometimes you don't accept certain things. Sometimes you may get mad this guy's getting a couple shots up, a little bit more shots, or he looked you off. But when you're winning and you're playing your role, and I think we understood that too from a long-term standpoint. Like, hey, people want to be around winners. I don't care if you're the 12th man on the team or you're the first man on the team. If you're doing your job and you're winning, people will take notice to that. You're sacrificing something because each one more could always win at 30 points at night. But that wouldn't have meant we won every night. Same thing for JaJuan, same thing for Rob. But those guys understanding that and the rest of the team following suit, it made it that much better. So we never had to worry about the losing struggles. But that losing definitely brings out another side of people.
I mean, we've seen that kind of with Some of the past players, I'm not going to name names or do
Yeah.
that, but how do you think Coach Painter largely has kept the culture very steady over his whole career? We've had like what 2 losing seasons in the past 2
Yeah.
years.
Coach Painter's just an honest guy. From the day you meet him in recruitment, like I can honestly say that, like he's not gonna stroke your ego just because he wants you, you know, and he wants the best for his team. So the guys he's recruiting, he wants winners, and he wants guys that's trying to better their futures. Whether if it's playing profession in the NBA or trying to play overseas or just making the best out of your career while you're at Purdue, he wants those guys. He's going to take a guy that's a winner. Sometimes I know fans may wonder, like, why isn't he recruiting this guy? Why isn't he recruiting this guy? Because he cares about that locker room chemistry. And he knows that if I can take a winner and say this guy's not the 5-star, but I know he's going to give me everything he's got, I can formulate a team around that guy. Those are the guys I want.
We started to see now kind of the upper echelon of recruits. Obviously, we have Caleb First, Trey Kaufman coming in next year. Big E was in the top 10, I believe.
Yeah.
But Paint kind of finds those guys that are under recruited. And just in recent years, PJ,
Yep.
Sasha, I don't think had very many D1 or high D1 offers. I think we might have been the only team in the Big Ten to offer him. So, how do you think Paint finds those guys, and does it lead back to that kind of leadership and winning mentality?
I think he knows what he needs for his system. I think again a lot of people get caught into, hey, I need a 5-star, or if I don't get these 5 stars, 4 stars, we're not going to win games. And Paint has understood, him being a player himself, and a lot of people forget he's played point guard, so
Mm.
he truly understands that. Hey, I need some guys that are my upper echelons, but I need those guys. Grady Eifert is probably one of the best examples. He's going to do my dirty work. All he does is do the things that's going to help us win. But that guy blends into that guy like a Carsen Edwards that may get 20 shots up. But Grady Eifert, not worried about that. So he works well with Carsen Edwards. So Coach Painter has a good sense of finding what players he needs just to fit his system once he gets the guys he's looking for.
Mm-hmm. And next, I want to talk about your relationship with Ray. You guys are really close, as I understand it, and like I mentioned, you guys were on the post game kind of Twitter live. So, how did you guys meet and kind of form that relationship?
I met Ray, I think Ray was 14, 15, whenever he came on his visit. And for some reason, I liked Ray. I liked how he was as a person. And I always pick with recruits in a sense. Like I want to see if you're mentally tough. And I was talking trash to Ray one time, and Ray said something back to me. And after that, I was like, oh, this is my little brother. Like, I like this guy. Like, he's okay with me. Like, I seen other guys come in and they were just kind of like, and they would kind of shy away from the way I was. But Ray, he embraced it. And then I had him for elite camp. And I told him, like, he was already committed at this point. And I told him, I looked at him in elite camp because I didn't want to lose. We always had a bet who could win, who was the better coach on the staff. And I told Ray, I said, hey, man, if you don't go out there and score every time and win this for me, I don't want to talk to you. And he looked at me. I was like, no, seriously, like, if you don't go score the ball, like, we know you're a Purdue signing. Everybody here knows who you are. Go dominate. And he dominated. And from then, it was just, we became close. And then once I graduated and I came back, I used to come back and I used to talk trash to him. And he would bark back at me. And I was like, good. Like, this is my little brother. And it just formed our bond, just the competitiveness. And he would never back down from me.
I mean, that's just the type of guy that Ray is. I've had the pleasure of kind of becoming a little bit closer with him in past weeks, but he's just a crazy dude. I mean, he was telling me about when he caught Grant Weatherford trying to sneak out of the team hotel, making him run. Stories about Ryan Klein. I mean, talk about just how his wiring. He's just wired different. He's a crazy dude.
He's wired different. We always joke, like, when we look back, like when we watch players now, we're always like, okay, he could have played with us. He could have played with us. Like, that's how we sometimes evaluate the talent. And Ray was always one of the guys. I told him, I was like, you missed us by a year. Like, you fit what we were as the baby boilers, and as we grew, you were that. You would have fit perfectly with us. And I think when he came in, obviously them struggling early, it was significant for his career because it did show his leadership. A lot of guys would have wanted to transfer, as some people say, take their ball and go home. But Ray, he knew he had to stay there and fight, and it really changed. It changed the culture. Is what Coach Painter needed at the time, and I mean, I have Ray in high regards. He'll probably tell you though. I think he's probably the most foulingest guard in Purdue history. I don't know how he won a Big Ten Defensive Player of the Year, but that's my guy, man. Like he's just hard working, he's determined, and he's always been that way. And that's what's made him the player he was.
And obviously now he's doing a bunch of great things with the podcast. You've been a guest on the camps and his nonprofit. Talk about how proud you are of him taking this kind of next step in life, going on a different route.
I'm extremely proud because I mean, guys go through times after you play. You know, you don't know sometimes that transition period. What do you want to do? And a lot of guys never talk about how hard it is when you don't make it. You struggle a little bit. So to see Ray just really giving back, and he's always talked about he wanted to give back, and he did it in his own pace, in his own path. He had to find what he really wanted to be passionate about. So now to see him out there giving back to his community, having the camps, traveling, and really being a part of basketball, doing something he loves, and I know the other things he's dealt with, I'm extremely proud. And knowing I was a part of the reason he came to Purdue, it just makes me that much prouder because I can always be like, I'm happy you're my little brother. Like, I knew from day one you were special, and to see you continue to be special and do things bigger for your community, it's an honor just to be able to call him my little brother.
I think all Purdue Nation is super proud of him, all the things that he's doing. One thing that I like that he's doing that I never really see very many of the former Purdue players do is engaging with Purdue fans on social media. I mean, you look at this dude tweet 100 times a day.
You
I
do.
mean, it's ridiculous sometimes, but like, I mean, he's engaging with these fans and making them feel like they're more of a part of Purdue. I know, like, when I was younger, I would tweet like "Happy Birthday, Vince Edwards," like with a picture or whatever, and he retweeted it, and I thought it was the coolest thing ever. So for him to do that, I mean, from a fan's perspective, I think it's amazing. I think that it'll just keep building Purdue's fan base and kind of. I don't want to say like. I don't know what I'm trying to say. Like in the past couple, in like especially last year, for example, Purdue fans were kind of barking at each other on social media and things like that. So I feel like Ray's kind of bringing them together. I don't know if you
Yeah.
feel the same way.
No, I do. I agree. For us, I know when we were coming through, Twitter and all that was starting to get popular, and a lot of us are more quiet on the internet. But I think it is always good because you wait to hear guys post game interviews. You always would like to engage with fans and have those conversations. And Ray is at a place where now he's a former player and he's comfortable with truly expressing how he feels. He's not worried about I'm playing right now currently, and if I say the wrong thing, I don't want people to judge it the wrong way. Now it's hey, I'm a former Purdue guy, but I'm here for the fans and I'm giving it to you also from a player's perspective and let's engage. And I agree, like it's done phenomenal things for the fan base and him as well. And he's made me want to talk to the fans a little bit more because now also we get to hear you guys' opinion, but now we're kind of also speaking on behalf of the coaches and the players and how they may be feeling. And I'm with you, like it's done great things for the Purdue fan base, and I think it will continue to grow.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be all for that. I know guys like you're pretty quiet on social media for the most part.
Yeah.
There's a few other guys that aren't quite out there. I mean, no one's really out there like Ray. He's just different. But talk about we kind of talked about it with Jaden Ivey going through things and not being able to express them when you're playing. How much talking goes like behind closed doors that the public doesn't really see?
I a lot. I think every player is different. Like a lot of guys, some guys are wired to where they can see a comment. Like I remember being a player and you read some comments and you're trying your hardest and you got guys bashing you like, yo man, like I'm trying my best. Like trust me, I'm not out here trying to miss a shot. I'm not trying to do that. And some guys it fuels. Some guys they've never dealt with the criticism like that and they don't understand. Like fans are just passionate and a guy like Jaden Ivey, you see him breaking through, and then it's just like it's a relief because all we want to do is make Purdue proud. Obviously we want to play in the pros and we want to be successful, but at the end of the day, all those guys are there to win for Purdue, and we just want to make Purdue fans proud. So when they're struggling and they may see some criticism, some guys may get down a little bit, and I always say it's like critiquing a job. I can't come to your job and critique you. So I think sometimes just we're passionate. Purdue fans are passionate. That's something the players have to be appreciative about, because some universities, their fans don't care. So it's just finding that balance where fans understand, like, hey, these guys, at the end of the day, they're young men and they're trying to figure it out as well. So critique them, but don't be too hard on them, because they're trying their best to help Purdue University win.
Yeah, I totally agree. And after I had that conversation with Ray, he kind of mentioned you in it. I mean, the fan culture on social media and things like that, it's gotten a little toxic as time's gone on. I mean, it's not like too bad at Purdue from what I've seen, but I don't know what you guys see. I bet you guys probably get more messages and things like that.
Well, I mean, it's like anything in life. You know what I mean? Like, you can get 10 positive quotes. You can get 10. And for some reason, that one or two, it just sticks out. We're all human still, you know what I mean? So at times you can just see that, like, you can get 10, 20 fans. You appreciate them all. It's just sometimes that negative comment, it stands out like a sore thumb. It's like, okay, why do you want to be like that? Like, why do you want to be negative toward us? Like, and I think for a lot of athletes, and we don't get to engage with fans a lot. So you guys don't get to know us. Sometimes you just see us on the court and that's all you get. So some guys, like I said, some guys are more sensitive. Some guys got a thick skin and like, it's just a comment and they move on about it. It's just we're still human too.
Before I let you go, I just wanted to ask you a few questions. I know these probably might be hard, but I was watching that post game thing you were doing with Ray, and he's asking you these type of questions. So who was better in college, E'Twaun Moore or Carsen Edwards?
Ooh. Overall, E'Twaun Moore. I think Carsen Edwards was phenomenal. Obviously his junior year, he went to a different level individually. But when you just look at E'Twaun Moore, and I played with him, but also I got to watch him his freshman year. He's always just been consistent. At the end of the day, you knew if you needed a bucket, since E'Twaun Moore stepped on campus, he would give you a bucket. And the game's changed, but yeah, I would give it to E'Twaun Moore just overall. Since freshman year, he's been the same player.
Yeah, I would have to agree too. Like him and you were my two favorite players growing up. I was talking to the guys earlier, and I was like, bro, Lou Jack and E'Twaun started playing at Purdue when I was 7 and 8 years old.
That's crazy.
So I was like looking up to you guys for forever. So yeah, I'd have to go with E'Twaun Moore, but Carsen's probably a close second behind him.
Yeah.
Another question was that 2009-2010 squad, the best Purdue team of all time based off talent. I know obviously Big Dog went to the Final Four, but based off talent, what do you think?
Yeah, talent wise, I think so. I think I always tell people in my hometown and just talking, we were Coach Painter's, we kind of guinea pigs in the sense, talent wise. Like, we were his first real crop of like just phenomenal talent around the board. And we were the team that got injured. If Rob doesn't tear his knee, if I don't tear my foot, people forget Keaton had knee problems. Obviously, Kramer always had an injury, but he fought through it. Like, I think if we just would have stayed healthy that 09, 010 season with Kelsey people forget Kelsey Barlow almost redshirted because we were so deep.
Mm-hmm.
And like Kelsey Barlow probably could have been in the NBA easily, like hands down. But like, yeah, I think if injuries don't happen to us talent wise alone, yeah, we're right there.
I forgot about Chris Kramer. What was it like to kind of sit behind him for a year and learn from him?
Man, it was crazy. So my first day on campus in June, I've never lifted weights. I hated weights in high school. Chris Kramer is my lifting partner. This is the defensive player of the year. He's bench pressing like 300 pounds. And I'm sitting there like, I got to compete with this guy. But it helped me in the long run. So as a freshman, I was got close to benching 300 pounds before my freshman year. And it was very competitive. Chris Kramer definitely brought that energy. He was a tough guy. He always wanted to defend. He took pride in defense and he set the tone in that. And it was an honor playing with him as well.
Mm-hmm. And last thing for me, I want to get some old stories of the baby boilers and Coach Paint, if you can share them. I know Coach Paint.
Coach Paint got stories for days, man. I think probably our craziest story when I just realized like college is different, when we lost our first 2 games in the Big Ten my freshman year, and Paint brought us in and like he literally had a board. He told everybody what they wasn't doing. This is what you need to do. and you need to stick with that. That was probably one of my first ones because he yelled at me, and I remember him telling me like, "Hey man, you're not in high school no more. You need to speak up. You need to be a point guard, be a leader. All that cool talking stuff is out the window." So that was probably my first like welcome to college, and then we just had a lot of good times, man. Like we were winning. We were winning. So open gyms was probably our funnest time because you come to our open gyms and literally you don't know who was the best player in there certain days. And like we always knew like open gyms was a dog fight, practice was a dog fight, road trips was fun. I had a phenomenal time. Like my 4 years in school, like that was a real brotherhood, real family. And I'm extremely glad I chose Purdue just off of those reasons alone. Like winning was the icing on the cake, but the foundation and family we had there is second to none.
Hmm. And after those big games, like say you beat Michigan State or you beat that number 2 Ohio State team, what were those post game celebrations like in that night?
Oh my God, man. We get on the plane, man. You got guys rapping songs. You got guys acting like the DJ, just screaming, man. You might get Coach Lusk at the time. He might come in and dance, and it, it's just crazy because you just those memories, like it's hard to replace them. You got jokes. It's always a great atmosphere. Like Coach always told us, when you went on the road, the pizza tastes better. The trips was always better. He was a little bit more nice on the plane rides back. So fun times.
Mm. And I actually forgot this question. This is my last one though. Talk about that dunk against Western Michigan. Obviously, you as a shorter guy, that was a
It
big.
was when LeBron won that ring and he said it's about damn time. It was about damn time because I was so frustrated because my freshman year I was trying to get used to jamming the ball. My legs were just they were jello. Then my sophomore year I get hurt, so that took a little bit of athleticism from me for jumping wise. And we used to always have the paint crew pizza party at the beginning of the year, and the paint crew fans always ask me, "Are you gonna dunk this year? Are you gonna dunk this year?" So in my mind, I'm like, "Yo, I have to get a dunk before I leave because I knew I could dunk. It wasn't one of those things like I can barely dunk. I knew I could dunk. So to finally get it, I was a little upset because I got it during Thanksgiving break. So all the fans weren't there. But to finally get it, it was like about damn time, man. At least I know I can leave and say I dunked the ball in the college game.
I couldn't think of a better way to end off this interview, but I just want to say thank you so much for coming on. I've looked up to you for a long time. Shout out to Ray for helping us kind of get together, but I hope all is well and take care, man. We'll talk soon.
Man, I greatly appreciate you having me, man. Take care.
Yeah, for sure.
All right.